Welcome to a marvelously moody and windy Masai Mara this afternoon. My name is Brent Smith and I have Adrian on the camera. And as you can see, this very ominous weather continues. Now, I've been chatting to some of the rangers and guides, and Nasiti, who's our park ranger who's with us this afternoon, who's been here a very long time, tells me that when the weather is like this for an extended period, it means it's going to be dry for a while. So probably not too much rain to look forward to. Remember, if you have any questions about what's happening, what's going on, or anything you might have been pondering about the diverse African wildlife, feel free to do so by using the hashtag Safari Live on whatever medium you're watching on. And as I said, it's windy, it's smoggy. We're going to try our best to find you the most spectacular things. Otherwise, we'll have a lovely chat as we go along. Now, Ralph is out with me. He's behind me somewhere on his way down. I think Ralph's plan is to head down in this direction as well. Now, I just haven't been down this way since I've been back, so I'm going to go look down towards the area of the big sausages, so the big sausage tree pride. Maybe on the way back have a look for the little sausage tree prides, and as it gets a bit darker and cooler, head towards the Angamas, because I do know where they are, but they are in a no off-roading zone. So I'm going to see if we can find some lions on the move first and foremost. And the other area, main reason I like this area, there is also a very good chance we might get lucky with cheetah. As I said, the grass is very long at the moment, so it does make it a little bit difficult, but of course we will always do our best. So while I continue on into the wind and south towards Tanzania, let's go say good afternoon to Ralph.
Yes, good afternoon everybody. Thank you, Brent, and welcome aboard another blustery afternoon here in Kenya. We are in the Masai Mara and you are watching Safari Live. My name is Ralph Kirsten and on the camera we have Craig. How's it, Craig? Yes, folks, welcome aboard. Please don't forget to join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. We'd love for you to be involved. This is, after all, the largest game drive in the world. Now, it is, as Brent said, very windy, very blustery. It's a really strange, hazy environment and feel to it, but it's nice and cool, so there's every potential that the predators are walking around. And my idea for this afternoon is to slowly make my way back towards the hyena den, because there's a couple of questions that I would like to follow up on, and we're going across the river tomorrow, so I'm not spending too much time with them for the next few days, so I'd like for us to say goodbye to them for a little while. However, I think we're going to go along the river road here next to the forest, and we're going to see if there's any black rhino or leopard, who knows, that pops their noses out. Alright, let's head on out. So, and the reason I want to head towards those hyenas is because I had some very intricate questions that I would like to follow up on, but we're going to head down now along the forest road, and while we do that, let's head you on back to Brent, who's got some of those lovely big pachyderms to show you.
Well, there we go. We've got 2 elephants. There could be a few more over the ridge there. Now, I'm going to take this opportunity to do a little bit of a lesson in elephant behavior. You can see how strong the wind is. So if Adrian zooms out, it will give you an idea about how far away we are from the elephants. And there's a very important reason why I've stopped this far before approaching the elephants even closer. So elephants can be quite unrelaxed when the wind's like this. So I've stopped. They've definitely heard me coming, or at least seen me coming. I've looked at their body language. You can see their tails are still swishing nicely. Ears are flapping. She does have lovely tusks as well. So they're showing no sign of discomfort. They've carried on feeding. So for those of you who ever find yourself in the position to have to drive yourself around in a game park with a big game preside, here's a little chance at some elephant lessons. Okay, so you can see I'm watching their behavior. It's nice and relaxed, which means I'm going to go a little bit closer now. And I don't think they're going to get upset. Even in this strong wind, as I said, you must remember that certain individuals can behave differently at certain times. Just like you have bad days, elephants can have bad days too. Okay, so I'm going to move a little bit closer. So I'm quite confident they're very relaxed. Now we're going to keep an eye on their behavior to see if anything else changes. So you can see I was actually a little bit naughty there because I know they're quite relaxed. But normally what you should do is start the car, let it run for about 5 or 6 seconds so they can hear it, and then start your approach. And again, now don't drive directly at them. You see I'm changing to the side of the road. I'm making sure that I'm not driving directly at them. It's the same as a person coming straight at you. It's quite threatening. So try and make sure with all animals, even an impala can be threatened by that. So you can see going nice and slowly, very calmly. I'm keeping talking. They can hear me talk. Hello, Ellies. And I'm watching their body language. There's still been no change whatsoever. Now they're moving towards me, so I'm going to stop and let them come closer to me. Hey, big girl. So there we go. So as you can see there, her body language, she's a little bit curious about us, but she's by no means aggressive at all. So she's actually just coming to have a look. Hello, lady. Now, watch their tails, watch their ears. Those are very important telltale signs. Now, I'm watching to see if she drops her head at all. She's not. Now, if she does come a little bit close, I might tap the side of the car. I think she's just going to pass straight past us. You are very pretty with your big tusks. Now, the most important thing is here. Now, if you ever find yourself in a position this close to elephants, starting the car is a bad idea. That will actually get you into trouble because you're very, very close. Now, when you're in this situation, you can only sit still. Hey, you don't want to do anything bad to me. No, you're just coming to have a look. Good girl. There we go. So it's very important to read the animal's body language. And a lot of times when people think they've been charged or chased by an elephant, it's because they've reacted badly at the wrong time that has caused that elephant to react to them. Hey, big girl. Lots of lovely grass now that the wildebeest are gone. Now, Tom says they are such amazing animals. Indeed they are, Tom. So I'm just going to turn the car so that we can have a nice look at them again. But wasn't that incredible? She was less than a meter from us. I mean, if just beyond the reach of my arm from where we were. So it's very important, and that goes for all things, even with domestic animals. The more calm you stay, the calmer the animals stay. Now, if you're ever uncomfortable in a situation, and you know you're going to be uncomfortable with elephants, especially if they come close, rather move at that sort of distance of 50 to 60 meters where we initially stopped, and rather let them move past or reverse away or drive away and give them a lot of space. Because if you're not relaxed, you might do something that could upset them, and that would not be good for either of you. I do love spending time with elephants, and I was fortunate enough to grow up surrounded by elephants in an area that's got the most elephants in Africa, in northern Botswana. So I was very, very lucky to be taught how to handle elephants from a very young age by my dad. Muti is wondering, how do I compare the Mara elephants to the ones I saw in Tsavo? Now, Muti, it's quite interesting that the Mara... Oh, look at that, just grabbing each other's trunks, isn't it? Oh, talking. Sorry, Muti, I will get to your question now. It's just one of the most wonderful sounds. So special. So Muti, the area where we were in Tsavo sees almost no tourists. It's right in the top end of the Tsavo Triangle, and it's an area that's been hit by poaching quite badly over the years. So the elephants there tend to be a lot more cautious, a lot more aggressive. What people would call aggressive, what I call scared. So when I was in Tsavo, I made sure I kept big distances away from the elephants. I made sure they felt relaxed because I don't want to go terrorize the poor creatures. So there we go. That was a wonderful little interlude with elephants. And let's go see what other wonders we can find as we wander through the Mara. In the meantime, Ralph has got a bird.
Yes, indeed, we do have a bird. Thank you, Brent. And this lilac-breasted roller just made a kill right in front of the car, and he's flown just into a little branch on the side of the road, but he's still in the process of trying to kill it, I think. But he's been throwing it about in his bill. It looked like a dragonfly. I'm not quite sure if it is one. We'll just have a closer look. It might... Oh, I think it might be one, but wonderful. And he flew and attacked it just in front of us, and now he's got it, and in the process of trying to kill it, and I'm sure in a minute he's going to swallow it down. And you'll see that they normally have to turn it round, that he can get it head first, going down the throat. As we see now, he might whack it on the branch every now and then. Yep, and there we go. And you can see how windy it is now with him. He's got to judge the wind as well as he throws it up. Look at that. Oh, and it's gone. Wow, that was very nice. And now he might even clean his bill a little bit. Oh, is he looking for any scraps that maybe got past? But it's very nice and windy. Now, Tom, you're commenting that it looks like a kookaburra coming from Australia. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, all the way down under. It does look a little bit like a kookaburra, but I think it's a little bit smaller and slightly different colors, but relatively similar shape, especially with that silhouette. And yes, thank you for joining us all the way from Australia. Fantastic. Welcome aboard. Now, Chat Noir, you're also saying that it looks like he's trying to keep himself steady in the wind. Well, absolutely. He's really trying to hold on to that branch and facing into the wind as he does so, because if he turns around, it all blows the feathers backwards, and so it probably catches him a lot more. So even though he's not flying, he's still trying to be aerodynamic. And I think we keep on saying chat noir, but is it not chat noir? I'm wondering, because that means black cat. And so if it is indeed, please let me know if I'm correct. I do speak a little bit of French. Chat noir. Right. So, that was just one of our little sightings that we had along the forest road, and that's what we're looking for, folks. And now, we are going to continue on a little bit, because I think this lilac-breasted roller might fly off soon, and we've watched his whole sequence with him feeding. And so, let's start up and head along the road, see what else we may be able to find. Always exciting, isn't it? Now, handicap, you're wondering, are there any cardinals in the area? Handicap, I'm wondering if you're thinking about the cardinal woodpecker or the cardinal bird. I might be getting this completely wrong, because I don't know of a cardinal bird anywhere here, but I do know of the cardinal woodpecker, who is very incessant with his knocking on dead branches and so on, making his territorial call through a on a nice branch that reminates the sound. And I think I have actually heard one here, so it might be him. Or am I getting it wrong? That in fact is the bearded woodpecker, not the cardinal. He does more of a chir 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 call. Excuse me, I've mixed them up, and I teach my students that all the time. That's a bad mistake from my side, but yes, we do get cardinal woodpeckers. I'm just not sure if I've heard them here in the Masai Mara. I'm trying to think, but quite possible. Alright, so it seems that I was correct with the French name Chat Noir. Chat, C-H-A-T, meaning cat, and Noir meaning black, so black cat. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your questions and comments. We'll get it right from now on. And while we continue along our little road, we're going to hit the main road soon. I'd like to send you back over to Brent, who's doing something quite similar to us.
Well, we've just stumbled upon some helmeted guinea fowl. And breeding season is over, so when helmeted guinea fowl are breeding, you see them in pairs with their young ones. But as they move out of the breeding season, and which is when it is dry, and that is this time of the year in the Mara, they move into little flocks. The flocks get bigger and bigger. They can get into their hundreds in certain parts of Africa. But I've never seen anything more than about 10 or 15 in the Mara. Now, quite an exciting thing for Jamie while we were in Savo is that Jamie got to see a new guinea fowl species for her, which does not occur in the Mara. It occurs in the more dry areas of Kenya, and that is the vulturine guinea fowl, which is quite a creature to behold. We were lucky to see quite a few big flocks of vulturine guinea fowl while we were in Savo. They are quite spectacular. Quite a bit bigger than the helmeted guinea fowl. Make slightly different noises. Melissa is wondering what is on top of the fowl's head. It's called a, I'm trying to think, sorry. In hornbills it's called a casque. I suppose it is a type of crown. It's a sort of a bony cartilaginous piece of cartilage with skin over it, and in males it's quite prominent, especially during breeding, and like chickens the male chickens have their wattles and crests. It's the same thing. It's to look impressive for the ladies, and hence the name helmeted guinea fowl, because they are the only guinea fowl species that has that very prominent crest on them. And you can see it's very windy. Now, of course, this will be a favorite food of serval, and there are quite a lot of serval in this area. Julie says guinea fowl are great snake alarms in Australia. Well, they're pretty darn good snake alarms here too, Julie, as well as leopard and lion alarms from time to time. So they are very, very alert. And I've found leopard on quite a few occasions from the alarm calls of helmeted guinea fowl. Now, there are two species of guinea fowl you can possibly get in the Mara. You also get crested guinea fowl, but they're only very much in the forests up on the escarpment and a bit of the forested areas around the Sand River waterfall. Okay, here we go. Arch, let's have a quick look here. So that is the crested guinea fowl. Well, if we come out onto me, Arch. Oh, sorry, Adrian. Too many A's in the camp. So there we go. That's the crested guinea fowl. If we can zoom in on here. So there we go. So those occur in the more forested areas of the Mara. So crested guinea fowl. And then the guinea fowl I was talking about in Savo is the vulturine guinea fowl. There we go. So those are the three common guinea fowl species in East Africa. Okay. Yvette is wondering, do people eat guinea fowl? Indeed they do, Yvette. They are actually farmed. Quite a few people keep them with chickens. I've seen in some of the villages in Kenya, I've seen tame guinea fowl with chickens. In South Africa, also done. In Tanzania, I've seen it. Zambia, I've seen it. So yes, people do eat guinea fowl. Quite tasty. I have eaten quite a few guinea fowl in my day. Now, there's another reason I'm going down this road today, is that I'm hoping that the short-toed snake eagle that has made an appearance almost every year in this section of the Mara Triangle makes an appearance today. So I'm going to be checking on all the prominent trees for the short-toed snake eagle as well. Okay, now while I carry on, Rolf has probably got one of the most comical animals to watch in the Mara.
Comical indeed. We've got a very funny situation going on here with a lot of olive baboons around, and some of them going up, some of them falling out of this tree. And so we just thought we'd stop here and watch what happens, because I can watch baboons all day, especially with their antics. And there's one riding mom like on a horsey, but that one also just hiding behind the tree. There's a lot of them still up in the tree, I think, thinking that we can't see them, but they'll come down in a moment. There they are, and it looks like one of these wild apricots again. I'm still getting my head around all these different trees that we're finding here in the Mara, but they obviously like this one. It's a very good one to climb if you're a baboon. And they're all foraging as they go. It's very funny because baboons love to play, but they also love to forage, and there's always constantly something happening. Even in between their family feuds, they always find time to have a bite to eat. Now, punk, rock and music, thanks for your comment. They are your favorite comical animals. Well, they're one of mine too. I can literally sit for hours watching them if they're comfortable with my presence, and just watch them as they continue along with their daily chores. Remember, baboons, both here and in South Africa, they are run by an oligarchy, so an elite group of males, and every now and then there are some youngsters that step out of line, but they get very quickly put back on it. Look how they slide down the branch there. Very adept on the ground and in the trees. And it's quite special with baboons that they are both terrestrial and arboreal, meaning ground dwellers as well as tree dwellers. See how well they go up. Now, Amazed Man, who is a new viewer, thank you for joining us, and thanks for asking your question as well. You're wondering, what is their maximum weight? Well, the Chakma baboon in South Africa, which is slightly larger than this olive baboon, they reach weights of about 30 kilograms, which is in the region of about 60 pounds as a male, and the female is normally about half that, so about 30 pounds. So I would take off about 10 pounds for these olive baboons. So I would say about 50 for the males, and at about 30, maybe 25 for the females, so a little bit lighter. They've got a lot more hair on them than the Chakma baboon, and their body mass looks slightly smaller, so I would definitely say that they're around that weight. The males get quite a large mane as well, and very easy to identify them, especially by looking at their bottom, because with the males, as you can see there's one, he has a very dark bottom and rather black on the edges, and he has his mane as well in the front. And the females, which we will show you when we see one, very red bottoms, and that is much down to the kind of attraction. There we go. You see, that's a female, and the redder the bottom, the more she's looking for a mate. And lots of squeaks and squeals from baboons. It's very much a subordinate type of noise. You won't really hear males squeaking or squealing. They do more of the Now, David, you're wondering if baboons are territorial. Well, they're not in essence, but they will defend a particular area that they roost in. So they'll have a very large home range where they move during the day, and then they'll protect their roosting site. So I don't think that they are actually classified as territorial animals because they can move around and they won't particularly stick in one spot unless, like we found at Olashaki, where there are a number of sycamore figs right on the river's edge. There is all the resources that they require to survive. So they have water and they have a habitat to sleep in at night, and they also have food on tap. So I would say that in those particular cases, they are extremely territorial because they will protect that particular site with their lives. But in general, baboons, they do move and change of their roosting sites, and they can move to different places every day. Their biggest predator being that of the leopard, and leopards can be voracious predators of baboons, but they are still extremely comical, even though they can be very aggressive as well. Baboons, they have very large teeth. Now, Ravender, thanks for your question. You're wondering how they behave in towns or cities. Well, they do get themselves into trouble because even out here in the bush camps and the lodges and the accommodation spots within game reserves, they constantly have a battle with the baboons because they very quickly identify where there's easy food available. So they start getting into the dustbins and climbing in the windows and opening up fridges and eating people's food. And the problem is that they're very messy eaters. They don't just eat their food and leave, which would probably then allow people to allow them into their space, and they could live side by side quite happily. But what baboons do is they go in, they eat the food, and then they spread it everywhere. They turn everything upside down, and they normally defecate and urinate and wipe that all over the floors and walls, and so it does become an extreme mess. So you can't particularly have that in accommodation establishments, and so they do become a problem, and if they are allowed to continue with that, eventually it does become a problem animal. So generally they try to keep them away, and if they can't, well, then they need to give a very big deterrent, and that normally becomes a gunshot, possibly. Sorry about that, everybody. That was just one of those little problems in the background, but not a problem. I've just popped into the forest just to see if there are any owls floating about, but I am going to be heading back towards those baboons because it seemed that everybody was very interested in them, just like me. But while we went away, we just quickly wanted to see if our friends the owls were sitting in the trees, but I don't see any of them. So, well, next best, let's head back to the baboons, and they're just up here, so hold on. Now, there they are. Let me just position nicely that we can get a nice view of them. Now, I do want to answer the question from Rihanna, but with all the excitement, I've just forgotten what the question was. So I'm just going to allow them to relay the question once more. Aha, right, yes. Do people eat baboons? Thank you, Rihanna. As far as I know, not, because also the local people believe that they are too close looking and acting to humans. So they believe that by eating a baboon, you're pretty much eating a human. And so in local traditions and cultures, it's pretty much taboo. But I'm sure there are some small tribes that maybe do, but generally it's just a bit of a animal-human conflict, with them coming in and destroying houses and the food that they find, and so they might also get into vegetable gardens and make a problem there. But if they can be just kept a little bit in line by not allowing them to do that, and people keep their windows closed and their doors closed when they're not there, then they can eliminate the problem. But remember what I said, the lesson: we don't feed wild animals, we're not helping them, we're normally signing their death warrant and making them the problem. Now listen to that. Now, very often people think that squealing is very much out of an animal being hurt, but it's more normally the subordinate animals showing their subordination towards a more dominant, usually male baboon. So maybe it stepped out of line. The baboon male showed a little bit of you're out of line there, buddy, and then they show their subordination by a very high-pitched squeal. So you can hear that quite regularly with baboons, and to the untrained ear, as I said, you might think that they're being killed, but it's not the case really. And look at that fantastic climbing agility, and of the youngsters especially. They have such fun while they're going about their daily business. Alright folks, so while we watch these guys doing their little things, scratching and getting rid of parasites and feeding on the fruit and so on, let's head you on over to Brent in the meantime, who I believe is bumbling around.
Well, we're getting towards the area of the large sausage tree pride, sort of towards the boundary. They don't come too much further than where we are now. And I'm hoping to find them lounging under a tree, hopefully under the big sausage tree itself. But it is very quiet here, and you can see why it's such a struggle for the lions during certain times of the year. You see there? Oh no, don't run away, don't run away, you stay right there. There we go, don't disappear into the grass. To the right, no, it's ducked. Oh, nasty little bird. It was not such a little bird, it's quite a big bird. Let me just try reverse a little bit. Oof, no, the grass is too long. It was a white-bellied koran, but it is vanished into the long grass. But you can see why it's so tough for the lions at this time of the year. The majority of what they're feeding on is warthog, and there are a lot of pigs here, but you notice, I mean, there's not one zebra, not one topi I haven't even seen buffalo or giraffe. The only thing I've seen down this road so far were those 2 elephant and some birds. So it can get quite tough for the lions, particularly the bigger prides. In areas like this, the lion prides that live around the river, they have it a little bit more easy. But these lion prides that live out in these massive grasslands do have a bit of a tougher time at this time of the year. Now, it's not to say there's not food here, it is just a bit harder for them. Now, as a lot of you know, I recently was in Sabi, and we stopped at the bridge. And the bridge there's 3 bridges now. There's the road bridge, there's the old railway bridge, and then there's the new fast railway bridge. But the old railway bridge has got some of the original stonework in it from 1898 when it was being built. And that area obviously became very, very famous for 2 man-eating lions, who were dubbed the man-eaters of Sabi. Now, a lot of people say Sabi has maneless male lions. Well, they're not maneless per se, they've just got very small manes. And that's a lot to do with the terrain. It's very thick bush, so a lot of the mane gets actually pulled out. So they were said to have eaten about 130 people over the period that bridge was being built. Now, 130 people is a lot of people for a particular, or for 2 individual lions to actually succeed in eating. So people have actually now gone and got some hair samples and skin samples from the man-eaters. For those of you who live in the States, if you're ever in Chicago, you can go actually see the mounts of the man-eaters of Sabi at the Chicago Field Museum. They're there. So scientists have now taken and done genetic studies based on what people ate at that point in time and whatnot, and they can say they estimate those male lions ate between 28 and 34 people based on what they could find in the skin and the hairs there. Now, that's not to say they didn't kill more people, but it's unlikely that they killed 130. They probably killed 40 people, because what often would have happened, they would have killed some and they might have been chased off by other people or shot at, etc. So they would have run off. Now, there's a lot of mitigating factors to why all of a sudden in that area those lions became heavily reliant on man as prey. Now, there's a couple of reasons. That there was a dysentery outbreak amongst the workers from India, and so obviously a lot of sick people and dying people, and very similar to some of the biggest outbreaks of man-eating in India, about tiger and leopard, have all been around human disease outbreaks. So with the Hindu people, you need to be cremated. If you can't, a coal was placed in the person's mouth to be burnt. And what happened is that what probably led to the beginning of the sort of man-eating was the fact that the lions were digging up the graves. They weren't particularly deep graves. The ground is very hard and very rocky there. So you probably find the graves weren't particularly deep, and the lions were taking advantage of that free food source, which then developed. Probably the main reason for the man-eating being so aggressive at that time is it was just after the rinderpest. So the rinderpest was a disease that affected all cloven-hooved animals, and so the majority of their natural prey had already been wiped out by disease. So, and all of a sudden a nice easy source of prey arrived in the terms of human beings. So it's very, very interesting. So those are probably the most famous man-eaters in Africa. However, there have been other lions that I would say have eaten a lot more than the man-eaters of Sabi, and they live in South Africa, along the boundary of the Kruger National Park, especially during the Mozambican Civil War, when Mozambican immigrants were trying to flee the war and get into South Africa. It's a long border. Some people estimate as many as 40,000 people. Some people say 15 to 20,000 people were eaten by the Kruger lions along that boundary. And that still happens to this day with immigrants trying to get through into South Africa. People are still getting eaten by lions to this day. Now, outside of that, which is a very specific scenario, Man-eating amongst lions is quite common in northern Mozambique, southern Tanzania, where I was down there. Three people got eaten by a lion. I actually tracked and tried to hunt one of those man-eaters, but he disappeared. And what has happened there is it's more the reason is it's a lack of not a lack of habitat, a lack of prey. So what's happened on the edge, particularly the Selous and the Nyassa reserves, the two big reserves in northern Mozambique and southern Tanzania, is what happens is that up to the border of the reserve, those areas were often still are quite wild, but there's a lot of rice farming and maize farming happening in the dambos, or which are the sort of open grasslands between the Miombo forest, and that's where the warthog and the bushbuck and the buffalo and stuff would have lived. And most of the man-eating is happening by young males. So traditionally, they probably would have been pushed into these marginal areas away from the big rivers naturally by the male lions, and they would have had these peripheral areas where they could have roamed before they could come back in and challenge. Now, the biggest problem now is that those peripheral areas that are not great, but one lion or two lions on their own can survive there, have now become completely not inundated with humans. The humans are just in certain areas, but the humans have removed their natural prey. So, of course, these young males are now starving. They've just been harassed by big male lions, and they're focusing there on human beings. So it's quite an interesting subject. Not the most fun subject, but it is a subject I've researched immensely over the years, both in Africa and India and Europe and North America. But if you've got any questions about it, remember #Safari Live, and we can have a chat about it a little bit later, because it sounds like Rolf has some lovely grey giants to show you.
Thanks, Brent. Yeah, what an interesting subject that is. Man-eating animals. It's normally for a particular reason, but at least we don't have man-eating elephants. We do have elephants that do cause damage and can kill people, but it's normally for a particular reason. And there was one little story up in Botswana in the Okavango Delta around Savuti, where there was a group of school children that were on a school outing with the Botswana school group, and they were told when they entered that they should not keep any food with them or any fruit, especially inside their tents. But somebody didn't listen, and it was a very big shame, because they went into their tent at night and they had a bag of oranges, which elephants really love to eat. And in the night, one of these elephants had smelt this oranges in the tent, and he went on over and tried to get the oranges out, and he couldn't obviously access the oranges, so started shaking the tent around, and the unlucky participant in the tent was thrown around and obviously shouted to get help, but nobody could really get anywhere near her, and eventually the elephant started to stomp on the tent and to get to these oranges, and eventually there was a hole made and took the oranges, but in the meantime the unlucky person inside the tent had been deceased because of the movements of the elephant. But it just highlighted the fact that the elephant was not after or angry or aggressive towards the person. It was merely trying to access the food that was housed within the tent. So we do need to listen to those rules and regulations when we go into national parks. They're there for a reason, and I've had something very similar myself when I was in the northern parts of Namibia. We had a very big cage on the back of our Land Rover, and that's where we housed all our food and our fridge and all our camping gear and so on. And so we were out there for over a week. So we have a lot of supplies, and that includes fresh water as well. But a metal cage with a very difficult latch to open. I mean, I used to even struggle to open it sometimes. But we were sitting having lunch, and an elephant approached us. Now, obviously, very dry area that we were in the northwestern part of Namibia. Very little food, very little water. And so the elephant attracted to the back of my Land Rover with all the fruit and vegetable in there that we had for more than 5 days worth of our camping trip. And the elephant obviously was very lured to this food and smell in the back of the cage, and so walked over to the Land Rover while we were sitting there, and I obviously got everybody away so that we could leave the elephant to do what he had to do. And he was very agitated that he could not access the food in the cage at the back, and so he started to shake the vehicle, and he was putting it on 2 wheels on one side and then pulling it back onto the other 2 wheels. And so I thought at the moment he was actually going to push the car completely on its side, but he kept rocking the vehicle backwards and forwards, and eventually the side door, which I'd normally struggled to open, popped open, luckily actually, because I think he would have destroyed our Land Rover. It popped open and he helped himself to our week's worth of fruit and vegetables, and once he was finished eating all my butternut and my gem squash and my oranges and apples, he nonchalantly, just very quietly walked away. But that left us with no fresh produce for the next week. Although the tourists were quite happy then after that, feeding on tinned foods that I tried my best to make the best of on the fire. But it wasn't ideal, but at least they had lovely stories to tell their friends when they got home, that all our food got eaten by a hungry elephant. But that just goes to show once more, and like I've said, we don't try to feed the animals, but they do know where to find it, especially elephants with their very strong noses, and they really love fruit and vegetable, especially citrus. So oranges and lemons and grapefruit, I think, are their favorite. It must be like eating bonbons or sweeties, as we say in English. But this is a lovely, big, beautiful female. It's not often that you see females with such lovely tusks like that. And she's got a wonderful set on her. And once again, I'm still very much amazed as to how little wear these tusks of the elephants here in the Mara are exhibiting. I'm sure that it's down to them not having to access bark and damaged trees and to gain all their nutrients because of the exact food that this one is eating now. So these elephants here, I would say, are more grazers, especially around this time of year. And it does make for wonderful tusks, at least. And it does make it difficult, however, to see whether they are left or right tusked elephants, as we would say for humans, left or right-handed. But for them, it's which side do they favor the most. And it's difficult to see with these elephants. Much easier down south in South Africa, in Djuma, because those elephants accessing the bark or the inner bark and the cambium layer of a lot of the trees, especially during the winter months. And I know one in particular that they love is that of the knobthorn, because that's got a very red and nutritious inner bark, and they feed on that so much that their dung starts to turn red because of the redness of the inner bark, and it almost looks like it's got blood in it. But then it's almost the identical color to that of porcupine, who do exactly the same, the largest rodent who likes to chew on the bottom part of the trees, and the knobthorn he likes to eat as well, especially in winter too. So there's two animals there that access the same resource from the same tree, and their dung then looks very similar, with that very red color to it. And if you didn't know what they were feeding on, you would actually start to think that maybe there is a problem with their digestion, because it almost looks like blood. It's quite strange to see two elephants on their own like this that aren't bulls. This female, maybe she's just wandered off with this youngster, spending some quality time away from all the rest of the family. Maybe it's been a little bit much with all the rest of them, and they're just taking some their time, if you would say. Me time. Well, this is their time. Ah, well, it sounds like this might be the same elephants that Brent had earlier. Maybe I have been following Brent. Oh well, it doesn't matter. They're elephants all the same, and they're wonderful to watch. But we're going to scoot on past them, I think. They've given us the gap. So, let's go. Much easier to do that with females than a bull in must, because if we started the vehicle with a bull in must next to us there, I'm sure he would have reacted to us. So we're making our way slowly but surely towards the hyena den, and we're going to keep doing that and stopping for everything along the way. But while we do that, let's head on over to Brent with another one of our feathered friends.
We've got another surprise. We had baby crowned crane chicks yesterday. We have two tiny little Kori bustard chicks in the long grass. Look at Mom feeding them. She just caught that grasshopper and then just waited to feed them. Now, the grass is a little bit long, but it can make life a little bit difficult when it comes to looking at the little ones. I'm just going to try and move forward a tiny bit. Fortunately for us, she's walking. Look, there, she's caught something again. She's going to feed them. Oh, it's quite a big. Oh, he's going to have to kill it properly first. Big grasshopper. See how she's killing it so the chicks don't get hurt. Come on, guys. I know she still hasn't quite dropped it yet. Obviously still kicking a bit. It's not that long ago we saw all the males displaying to try attract the female's attention. Obviously the big male from down this area had a successful breeding season. Oh, they are tiny. Okay, I'm trying to move a little bit closer. Oh, there we go. Look at them. They look almost wobbly on their feet. Okay, I'm just going to move the car. Adrian, there we go. Okay, just going to try and get a little bit closer. They are so small. I mean, we're having real luck with little birds. Zephyr, indeed, we're having some wonderful bird sightings. And with babies, you don't often get to see. So I'm just going to turn off the road here a little bit. I don't want to get too close and spook her. Hello, Joey, who's only 7, but a bit bigger than those little bubbas that are following the mom. Joey said, do I know how old they are? I'm not sure. They're probably at oldest a week or 10 days since they've hatched out of the nest. Maybe as old as 2 weeks. Actually, sorry, Jay, I'm talking absolute nonsense. They've probably been out of the nest for 2 weeks or so they're probably maybe as old as 6 or 7 weeks. Sorry, I got confused. I'm just too excited. I will double check on that for you. Now, I'm just going to wait for her to move into some shorter grass, and then I'll move again. So, as I say, there's a little patch of shorter grass coming up ahead, but I don't want to get too close. I don't want to spook her and cause the babies to scatter off. And Because what they'll do is they'll run and they'll just go flat down in the ground and hide while they wait for mom to come back and fetch them. So I don't want to disturb them. Okay. Amazed Man, who's a brand new viewer, welcome to Safari Live, says, do they eat grass? No, they eat insects and even up to small rodents. And sorry, back to Joey's question. Joey, I was right. I thought I was going nuts. So yeah, those are about 2 weeks or probably 10 days old. 10 days to 2 weeks old. They grow very quickly and they leave the nest within a day or two of being born. So unlike other birds that will stay in the nest for quite a long time, they will already be moving. At 2 or 3 days they'll be following mom. They're able to fly up to about 200 meters by the time they're 4 weeks old, and then by 4 months old they are almost fully fledged. Okay, let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Now she's gone around the corner. I'm hoping she goes into the shorter grass there, but she might move off into the long grass, but it was still such a treat just to see those little things. And so I don't want to get too close. I don't want to put any pressure and stress on her. Now, the main reason I've come here is because of these big trees around here. The big sausage tree pride likes to snooze around here. Now, it looks like she's left the short grass of the road and she's moving off to the left. We might get a view of her shortly. But she is quite relaxed. So I don't want to, with the little babies there, I don't want to stress her out at all. But she doesn't look stressed. You can still see she's still hunting insects to feed them. Oh, she decided to gulp that one herself. It's hard work being a mum. So the male Kori bustard has no hand in the rearing of the chicks, only the female. I'm sorry, Sorry guys, I just want to listen. I thought I heard something for a second. Maybe it was my ears playing tricks on me. Lara Moore says she has such an elegant face. Well, they are truly elegant birds for the heaviest flying bird in the world. Oh no, I heard it again. Very strange call coming from up ahead somewhere. There you go, you can see she's feeding the babies again. Vincent is wondering, does this bird migrate? No, Vincent, they are resident. They spend all year in the same area. Males are semi-territorial, and so are the females to a degree, but the females less so. Now, when they do move around a little bit, but they don't migrate massive distances. They'll move around the Mara, depending on food availability and things like that. So they'll move, but not very far, not migrating long distances. And isn't that incredible? You can't even see the babies at the moment. That's how long the grass is. We just see her catch something and then put her head down. You know, there's a little one there. Yeah, I'm just keeping quiet. You can just hear how still the Mara is at the moment. the wind and the odd chirp of a bird or insect. Now, Ghost Sider said, did I say it was the world's heaviest flying bird? Indeed, I did. It is by quite a long way. It's the world's heaviest flying bird, the Kori bustard, and males weigh up to 12.5 kilograms. So very, very heavy. A big male. Females, not so much. Females about half that, about 5.5 to 6 kilograms. The females. So, but the males are the world's heaviest flying bird at 12.5 to 13 kilograms. Amazed Man is wondering what type of animals eat these birds. An adult Kori bustard can be taken by python, snake. The little ones can be eaten by a whole host of snakes. Leopard have been recorded catching adults. Young adults, sub-adults, martial eagles have also been recorded taking adults Kori bustard as well as juveniles. I'd say probably leopard and martial eagle are the two biggest predators of Kori bustard. The little ones, serval, caracal, all the little cats will take a baby, but for the adults, probably martial eagle and leopard are the two most common predators. Okay, well, we're going to let her meander on in the long grass with her little ones, and I'm very happy we didn't disturb her. You can see she's nice and relaxed. I'm going to keep checking under the trees and thickets here to see if we can spot some lions. While we do that, it seems like Rolf is still on his way towards the hyena den.
Thanks, Brent. Yeah, we're getting into the long grass where those hyenas are found, and we might bump into some lions, but my feeling is that I'm pretty sure that the lions wouldn't be coming anywhere near this hyena den because they would be taking a massive chance with that many hyena. I think they will be leaving the area with the tails between their legs if they do. Now, I think earlier it was a particular Scarlet who asked a question. It was either Scarlet or Mia, but I think it was Scarlet. You asked the question, what is the purpose of males having nipples? Now, I've done a little bit of research, and this is a fascinating topic and subject because it seems that a lot of mammals, males, have nipples. And what is the purpose of that? Because the nipple is literally there to assist or enable the delivery of milk to the young. And all mammals have mammary glands. That's one of their characteristics. But there are only a few mammals that their males don't have nipples. And those are down to the equine animals such as horses, zebra and donkeys. So you won't see the stallions in those species having nipples. Another one being mice. The males of mice don't have nipples, and the other one is the male platypus. So they don't have nipples, but all the other males in the mammal species have nipples. Now, what is the purpose behind that? Because males generally are not there to deliver milk to the babies. So now, having looked at the research, there's a lot of different angles and points of view, because it seems that there is no final answer to this question, and it seems that there might be a vestigial reason. Now, if you know what the term vestigial means, it's the evolutionary remnants of something that we used in times gone by, something like your appendix or your tailbone or the coccyx in humans, and so that is remnants or vestigial parts that we still maintain, but it is now useless. So is it something like that, or, and the best angle that I have come across is that it is actually because of the male and female in the embryo in the womb both have exactly the same characteristics up until a specific point when their sex is actually decided, and then it's because of hormones that you lose or gain the particular sex characteristics. But for me, that is the best argument as to say why males have nipples without any real purpose. And I think it's down to the fact that males and females are both exactly the same inside or as the embryo up until the point that the hormones decide which sex they will become. So Scarlett, there is your answer, which is not a final answer, but a couple of angles as to why males have nipples. And it's actually still to the point where we don't quite know, but at least we have a couple of theories which do make sense, but that still begs the question, will males at some stage in our evolutionary process gain use of our nipples? Well, that remains to be seen. But there was also a very young contributor to one of the professor's theories, and he said to his dad, well, males would look very silly if they didn't have nipples, and then they would have chests with only hair. So that's also a very good answer, and from a very young child that had that argument. Well, I quite agree with him. So we've got three theories, because we would just look silly without them, and the vestigial reason, or because of the genetics involved. Very interesting. What have you spotted? Okay, we're just making our way in here to the hyena den, so we'll just move forward a little bit. Maybe there's one or two of them dotted around, but we are just... And look at that, folks, you would not know that they are here, would you? Sometimes I even forget where they are, but as we get closer, we will start to see their heads popping up. Have I now turned too early? Wow, I think I might have. And I might need to go back to the road. It is such a secret spot that I have now misplaced it. So I think we need to go back to the road, folks, and I will try and relocate our hyena den. That's how much of a secret it is, and it's going to remain as such. But I don't want to get us lost now in these grasslands, because it all looks the same. So I'm heading back to the road, and it's very close to where we need to be, but I think I've come down the wrong road. But it's still wonderful to have a look through these grasslands. You never know what's going to pop up in front of you. And this, luckily, well, I'm going to try and relocate my secret road, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to send you on over to Brent, who I think is doing something very similar to me.
So the grass is so long, I decided to sit up a bit so I can see down into it. So we're going to check these last set of gardenia trees I have for the big sausages, and then I think we might have to throw the dice and try go somewhere different, because I'm not seeing any vultures up in the trees. I'm not seeing any sign of potential prey. So the pride might have moved further to the south where the grass is a bit shorter. There's still zebra down there, but they do have quite a big territory, this pride. And during the migration, it's not necessary to have that big territory, but now you can see why it is. I mean, we've seen a Kori bustard, 2 babies, and some larks, long claws, and testiculars. No sort of sign of anything big to eat. And if you remember correctly, it's quite a big pride. So there's 2 adult males, 3 young males, and 5 females. So it's a big pride. So they need lots to eat. Now, it could be quite interesting if we get to find them over the next 2 months while there's a serious lack of food, as those young males are quite young, but because there is a lack of food at this time of the year, will the females and the dominant males push them out of the pride at an earlier age? When we must remember that a lot of the rules that we give wildlife are made by us, and it's not actually rules, and a lot of animals will behave differently in different areas. I'm not seeing any luck here, though, unfortunately, under these gardenias. Let's slip back down. There's some driving compliments. Well, the nice thing about these big four-wheel drives, that if you're in the right gear, you don't actually have to touch the pedals at all. Now there's a naughtier way to drive, which I do quite often, especially when the grass is long. And I'll show you quickly. Okay, so normally actually I sat there, because if I do it like this, normally I'm a bit too close to the camera. But normally I sit and I drive with my feet, so I'm even higher and I can see where I'm going and if there's anything in there. But I don't do that too often. But it helps when the grass is high, to just get that little bit of extra height to see down into it. Sounds like Ralph. Oh, hang on. Oh no, Rock. Thought it was a lion. It sounds like Ralph has managed to find his spotted, smelly friends. So let's go see what they're up to.
Thanks, Brent. Yeah, they are smelly, but they're also very curious. Look at these youngsters. They're all coming over towards us, all very interested, wondering what we are. And maybe we've got some smells of our own that they are picking up. The wind's blowing in their direction. They've all got their noses in the breeze, trying to smell what we're all about. And as the youngsters are curious as anything, I just don't let them get too close to the car. So just in case they get a little bit close, I might tap on the side of the car just to make them stay away from vehicles. That's a good lesson for them to learn as well. And we don't want them getting into the habit of coming up and chewing on our tires, because that's one of the things that hyenas, if left, can become a total nuisance. So just so that you know, if they do come right under the vehicle or go towards my tires, I'll just tap on the side of the vehicle, and it just sends them a little bit back. Hello guys. So curious, eh? Okie dokes, that's it. And they're coming very close now. But how cute is that? And I didn't bang on the vehicle there, but they all ran off. They maybe thought they were a little bit too close. But this little one right here, I think, is a little bit like Nemo, the fish. He's the one that's a little bit more curious than the rest. Okay, buddy, just back up a little bit there. We don't want you getting too curious. Yes? And I know you're not going to see me for a few days, but you're still not going to come and bite my tire. Now, Jode, who is 7 years old, thank you so much for your question, Jode. You're wondering if hyenas can attack humans. Jode, only if we don't understand hyenas and we put ourselves in a place where they can attack us. Now, you know when that is? That is at night, because hyenas move around at night, and if we leave any food lying around outside our tent, that can attract or bring the hyenas, because they've got very good noses, so they can smell the food from very far. And so they'll come, and because they want to get some food, and that's why we always need to put all our food away in the fridge and the dustbin inside, because otherwise the hyenas come and then they want to get some food. And in our camp we do have some hyenas that walk around at night, but we have those rules that we put all the food and everything away. But you do need to be careful, because they also like to eat shoes. And one of our tech guys, old Martin, has had one of his shoes stolen by a hyena. So Martin walks around now with one shoe. So Martin walks around with one shoe, and that's a great reminder for Martin not to leave his shoes outside. And so that's very important. So yes, they can attack people, but we just remember all the rules. Oh, I hear news that they discovered Martin's shoe quite far in the bushes, so maybe they didn't quite like the smell of Martin's shoes and had a little chew on it, and then they left it. Good thing for you, Martin. I thought he was walking around with one shoe on, but at least he's got two now. Look at these little youngsters. It looks like they've got a tusk of a warthog, which they were eating the other day. And they seem to also like the warthogs, the hyenas. And they've been eating a few of them. But it's very interesting to know that sometimes lions can eat mostly warthogs, where hyenas, they can be much better predators, taking down zebra and even buffalo. How do they do this? Well, hyena are stamina hunters, and so they will give chase, whether it's a topi or a zebra or a buffalo, and they will keep that chase up for hours. And so eventually the prey lies down, and then they eat them. But Tom, you're wondering if hyenas can attack lions. Absolutely, Tom, but hyenas generally only do this if they have lots of numbers together. So if you have 10 lions and 30 hyenas, I would put my money on the hyena. But if you have the same number of lions against the same number of hyena, it's generally the lions that will win. So I'm just looking over my shoulder here, and just have a look how close they are and how curious they are. It's wonderful to have them here, but remember, I will give a tap. You see how they also like to go straight for the tire? They do want to chew on it, and I wonder if they can also... Okay, buddy. There we go. Just back up. Okay. I don't want to hurt you. I just want to remind you that tires aren't for hyenas. All right? So you can smell it, but you can't chew it. Yep. Look at Mom. She's telling you that you must go back to your den. Thank you. Good little girl. Well done. That's a good hyena. See? We don't want to hurt you. We're just here to watch you. And that's the way we want to be with hyenas, folks, and all wild animals. There are some little rules that we just want to obey, and then it makes for wonderful observation, but we don't change their behavior. Now, obviously, with them being curious, it is a slight change in behavior because we've got a vehicle now here. But they are curious by nature, so it's not a problem. The ladies from Michigan State University are here on a regular basis, if not daily, and so they are quite used to vehicles, and we do then want to just keep them a little bit at bay and not chewing on tires, because if hyenas start chewing tires and you allow them to, well, while we're sitting here we might land up with 4 flat tires, and then how do we leave? And I don't particularly want to be changing tires next to a hyena den. I think it would be rather dangerous. And I do respect Mommy, and she keeps looking over her shoulder, just checking on the youngsters. And this one's taking another angle there. If they continue with that, I might have to just back up a little bit. But it's so wonderful just watching these youngsters move around us and be ever so curious and full of energy. It's nice to see hyenas moving around during the day as well. And it's mostly down to the energy of the young ones. Now, Jinlin, you're wondering, because the hyenas have their heads in the air, sniffing the air a lot, do they use their olfactory organ a lot more than the other animals? Well, Jinlin, I can say that I know for a fact that hyenas have one of the strongest noses and olfactory senses out of all the animals. So it's quite possible that they are literally just exercising what their nose is there for, and they can pick up all those little smells. And I'm sure that's now mommy telling the youngsters that they're getting a little bit too boisterous, they must just come home. Yep, I can see that message coming across. And so it's like my basset hound back at home. He's got a nose which is second only to that of the bloodhound. And the basset hound, he's got a nose with the sense that is strong, 300 times stronger than the human nose. And I'm pretty sure that the hyena is the same, if not slightly stronger than that of a basset hound or the bloodhounds. And so they can pick up minute and extreme smells from massive distances. And look at this one now. She's carrying one of the youngsters. Always wonderful here next to the den. So much going on, so much to talk about. The one's got the warthog tusk. And there was a question the other day as well, can hyenas eat and digest teeth? Well, it was a research that I tried to delve into, but there seemed to be very little information on it, specifically around teeth and if they can digest it. And so through all of my experience, I have seen hyena ingesting teeth off of a skull, but I didn't go particularly to that individual and walk behind it and wait for it to defecate to check through the scat. But through my years of being in the bush, I have rummaged through a lot of hyena scat, and I have never come across anything within their scat except powder. So, and that's obviously once it's dry, it doesn't turn to powder, but when you break the scat up, it is a very fine greenish white powder, and it all depends on the length of time it's been sitting in the sun as to what color it is, but it is a very fine grained nothingness. There is nothing left in there. If you want to try and identify bone, hooves, horn, and even teeth, I've never seen any of that in any scat of hyena anywhere. So my guess is, I'm saying that they can digest, they will digest teeth, and they do. So very interesting that there's almost nothing that is shown in hyena scat once it is excreted. So folks, I think we're going to stay here for quite a little while and see what happens here. It's so exciting. But let's pop you on over to Brent, who is driving around, and let's see what he's up to.
Well, we are sailing through a sea of thermita grass at the moment, and a bit of a streeter, to be honest. And I'm trying my last few sort of big trees in this area for the sausage tree pride. I'm a little bit further south from where we were, probably about 2 or 3 kilometers. I'm going to do a loop back along one of their favorite luggers, and if I get no luck then, I think I might have to head towards the river, see if the river's got any wonders in store for us, because it is really quiet out here in the long grass at the moment. Exquisitely beautiful, but very, very quiet. And as you know, you never know what you might find as you travel through the sea of grass. Keeping a close lookout up in the trees as well. because I have seen leopard in this area before, high up in the bowels of a balanites. Now, we were chatting about lions a little bit earlier, and man-eating lions in particular. Now, where the man-eaters of Sava and definitely the young male lions that are doing a lot of the man-eating in northern Mozambique and southern Tanzania at the moment, they've sort of been forced into those situations. Whereas the Kruger man-eaters are, like all predators, opportunists. And there's definitely an element of sort of teaching there. So the cubs will learn to catch the illegal immigrants, as the adults have. But I would say it's not a hereditary knowledge passed on. So it's not. So if all of a sudden the end of the illegal immigrants coming across stops, the lions 3 generations down the line, or 4 generations, once the last of the man-eaters are dead, that information will not have been passed on to the remaining generation. So it's not an instinctive, it's not not a hereditary instinctive trait, but rather a learned trait due to situation and scenario. But it is fascinating, and of course the more human beings come into conflict with animals, and the animals' home ranges and whatnot diminish, there's going to be more and more conflict. And unfortunately for the animals, human beings are the better survivor of all the animals, and we have adapted and developed to be that survivor. We forgave evolutionary we gave up our strength, our big muscles and body hair to protect us from the elements, in favor of a brain and the use of tools, which puts us in a very unique position, and by far the most dominant of all animals out there. But we are not truly a successful species yet. We might think we are, but I don't think we are just yet. We could be wiped out in an instant. If you consider, actually, I've got a question for you guys to ponder over. Now, if you consider survival as success in terms of evolution, what is the most successful species in the history of the earth? If you consider survival as success, what is the most successful species in the history of the earth? Hashtag Safari Live if you know the answer. But let's go have a look at some cute hyenas while you ponder that.
Thanks, Brent. And it seems on this female we've spotted a little bit of a wound there at the back. I wonder if that was from fighting with other hyenas, or maybe she's had a run-in with a lion. I wonder. Well, either way, she's still alright, and a little wound like that will heal up very quickly, especially on a hyena. A couple of cuts and scratches is par for the course with hyena and lions, so I wouldn't worry about her too much. And they're all fat as anything still. They're a little bit less fat than they were this morning, so a little bit of digestion has gone on. And it blows me away that they must have fed last night again after the day before when we arrived here, and they were all full of blood, and they had obviously killed at least 3 warthogs, and so they were massive already. And they must have within a day half digested that and then gone out and fed again. It's incredible. They're like eating and killing machines. But they are the cleaners up of the bush, and it's amazing how they can be such killers and yet so soft, like that one there. Very good moms. Wonderful to watch a killer that is so careful and tender with his youngster. And the other one very nonchalantly looking away. Up, there goes his head, her head down. Always need to remind myself that it's mostly females here. The males wouldn't be caught dead next to the den. They're the outcasts. Now, Marco, you're wondering how long these hyenas will stay in this den. It all depends on how dirty it gets and how quickly. It's quite a large den, and there's lots of holes and cavities for them to go inside. But it all depends on how much those little youngsters defecate inside the hole. And it's normally within a month or two that they will then shift the spot and go to another hole, and then they might return to this spot, and so they can reuse sites. It just gives it a bit of time just to degrade and get rid of the bit of putrid and smells and bacteria, etc. in the area. So eventually they will, but as you can, there is one of them. No, not as you can see, but you might be able to see in a minute. Oh, there she is. There's a female that has been off, and she's been lying in the mud, wallowing. So hyena also do wallow, but they're not very clean like the lions, so they won't come back and then groom themselves. That female that is wet with mud on her bum, in a couple of days' time we'll just see that flaking off as dry mud, so she won't sit cleaning it off. So sometimes baby might even need to suckle through mud, which could be initially quite a rather not so nice flavour, but at the end of the day it's protein all the same. And that one having a full go on the milk. Little squeaks, and I wonder what's going on with this other adult now. It almost doesn't want it to suckle. Maybe it's the wrong, it might be one of the wrong babies. Not generally suckle with other babies that aren't their own. So that might have been a little bit of a political tiff. Something that female, who might be more dominant, has basically said, off you go, you don't get to suckle so close to the den. Right, folks, so we are watching wonderful animals here in the Masai Mara, but I'd like to send you 1,600 miles to the south, all the way to the Greater Kruger National Park, to James Henry, who I believe has got some wonderful animals to show you.
We are sitting, of course, in the Greater Kruger National Park, 8.5 million magnificent acres of wilderness. My name is James Henry. Very nice. We have the greatest Gabonese French aircraft pilot in the world sitting with us today. His malaria, thankfully. That is Sebastian Rombi, of course, and I do excuse the shadows on my face, but you will notice that when I turn my face to the sun, I'm unable to open my eyes. That is because it is so very bright. So let's not look at me, let's look at the dogs. While I tell you that, of course, we would love to hear from you throughout the course of the show, as I'm sure Ralph and Brent have told you already. And you can talk to us using the hashtag #SafariLive. Now, for those of you who have not been with us over the last few days, we've been doing a few experiments with Ronald the Rover to see how animals respond to him. Now, we've done it with Hosanna the male leopard, we've done it with the Styx Pride. Both of those cats reacted in very similar ways. Well, the adult lions couldn't have been less interested. The cubs and the young Hosanna walked up to him. I'm not sure why they stood up there. It's not because I moved Ronald. And they kind of came and looked at him, smelt him, and then they disappear. Then they lay down and relaxed again. Now, the dogs, when we put him down here, they did get up straight away as soon as he moved towards them. And now they've settled again in the shade. So we'll see what happens. I was a little bit surprised by their slightly startled reaction, so I'm not sure that we're going to get the same result that we have with the cats. Alrighty, let's head down to the other end of the Djuma end of this drive. Let's go down to Tristan Dix, who is sitting with some elephants.
I am, James. I'm sitting with elephants, but I'm not on the other end of Djuma. I'm very, very close to where you are sitting, Mr. Henry. And so these elephants are all around Chelapan, which is just a little bit south of where James is. As James mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I do have Wiem the wildebeest. There we go. There's a little thumb from Wiem. This is live. It is interactive, which of course means that you can actually ask questions and get hold of us. So hashtag Safari Live or YouTube chat if you would like to get hold of us. Now we have a beautiful herd of elephants that have come down towards Chelapan, which is in a way really cool and in another way not so cool, because we were hoping that we would find young Hosana just sleeping and resting in this area, but he seems to have moved on. Although the way these elephants are all kind of fronting up, I think Hosana might be lying somewhere close by. Let's just try and check here in front, because the Ellies are kind of looking towards this direction and they're kind of taking a few steps. There's a little baby there. Let's see, maybe if we go forward, Hosana might be lying somewhere in the shade here. I don't quite know where Steve left him this morning, so I just want to check in all the shady spots. I don't think he would have gone far with a full belly, although you never know with Hosana because he moves so much, and he does like to move a bit during the day as well. So maybe he's moved on, maybe the Ellies have chased him, but just the way that they're all kind of bunched up, you see how they're all tightly packed together. I thought maybe, just maybe, there was a little leopard in section, which could be very possible. We'll have to just look nicely. It also could be because there's a tiny baby in amongst there. So there's a very wobbly baby, maybe a baby that was born at some stage yesterday. It could be, or even last night, because it's really quite wobbly on its feet. The way that it's standing, you can see those little legs are buckling and moving quite a bit, and the fact that everybody's bunched around it could potentially mean that it's a fairly newborn. The other thing that we have here is some really big bull elephants. So there's a massive bull elephant in the background. He's also here, and so that's causing a bit of a ruckus in the herd. So Francis from Israel, you think that that's why they're a bit anxious, is that they're protecting the baby? Well, I think it's twofold. I think not only they're protecting the baby, maybe they smell a leopard here, and maybe they know that Hosana was around in this section, but I think more than anything is that these big bulls are causing a bit of a ruckus. So there are a number of big boys around here, and they keep chasing some of the females, and you can see, look, as the male leaves, now look at how this herd has disbanded out, and so the little one is now a lot more exposed than what it was, but they're all sort of sniffing at it. It is very small, that little one, so that is a tiny new baby that is around, which is very cool. And so maybe there's another female that's in heat and the boys are causing a bit of panic, and that's why everybody's sort of trying to protect this little baby in case one of those big males comes close. Now you can see two of the males just squaring off there. Those are the two smaller ones. There's the third is a really large male, which I don't quite know there he is. He's just on the right there behind that bush, so maybe he'll come out just now as well. Insanity, you're wondering if the matriarch elephant is always the biggest? No, not necessarily. Sometimes you will find that there will be bigger females within the herd structure, but she might just be sort of from a different lineage, or she might have joined from a different reason, and so she's maybe not the matriarch of that particular herd. Or you'll have a situation where genetically there's a female that is the matriarch and another female that grows up underneath that female, gets slightly larger, but yet she's not as experienced and not as sort of in tune with what's going on, and so oh no, it fell down. Oh shame, little one, did you just fall? I think this little one must be newer than we think, maybe a matter of hours old, given that it's, look how it's struggling to stand up. Oh no, come on, up onto your feet. There we go. See, mom, look how mom is picking it up. See, mom is using its trunk to try and pick it up. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? See, all of them? So they wrap their trunk around its body like a little harness, and they lift it so that it can get to its feet to get the strength to be able to stand. I wonder if this baby is not even newer than we even think. Maybe during the day today, maybe in the last few hours, it's incredibly hot today, so it would dry very fast if it was born recently. I mean, the time for it to dry would be, like I say, very quick. So maybe it was born late, or this afternoon, or around lunchtime area. It's difficult to know, but it would explain why the herd is sticking around, because you would expect a herd like this to move and not to stand right in the sun like they are at the moment, but for some reason they're sticking around, and the baby is very wobbly, so maybe that's the reason why. It's very, very cool to see. Either way, it is tiny, that little one, and definitely not very well balanced at all, so we'll hopefully see it trying to move away away. I'm sure this herd is going to try and find some semblance of shade. It must be incredibly hot for not only them, but the little baby as well. Now, the interesting thing about this whole process is that those females that are standing there are all fairly young females. None of those are particularly big. You can see here comes a much larger female who's actually got much bigger teeth or mammary glands, and so I wonder if she's not the one that is actually the mother, and she just went for a quick cooling down, and the siblings have just protected around her, because I don't see any other females there that are lactating at the moment, but I could be wrong. Now look, here comes the big male. You see how much bigger he is than the females. He's going to come towards them, and look at how the females are wrapping around that little calf. Isn't this just the most phenomenal behavior from these elephants? And look at the size difference. He towers way over those females. He is massive in comparison to them, and that little baby is hard to think that it's going to go from that small, if it's a male, all the way to that massive individual like you see there. Now, we can definitely confirm that the female that is in front, that's closest to us, isn't the mom, so that little one is suckling from it. So amazing to see that the other members of the herd looked after it while the female went just to go cool down. She's probably been in the sun, she's probably exerted a lot of energy if she's given birth recently, and so while she went to go and cool down slightly, the others looked after her and just wrapped around her and made sure that they're looking after this little calf. But how cool is that? You've got from absolutely tiny, from new, all the way up to as big as males can be. I mean, you can see the height of his shoulders in comparison to those females. Gives you a really good idea. Is amazing. It just shows you that male elephants are really not small animals at all. You always see females and you think they're massive, and then you see these males in comparison and you can realize just how big they are at the shoulder in particular. And look at the size of his head in comparison to those females' heads. His head is almost double the size. You can imagine how much strength and power is inside there. Absolutely incredible. How cool is this? What a way to start our safari. It really is the best way to start, is a big herd of elephants, the prospect of a leopard sitting somewhere here watching all of this going on. It really is a good, like I say, a good omen for a successful afternoon that we should have. So I believe a lot of you are a bit concerned or worried that this bull will hurt the calf. Well, elephants are insanely intelligent animals, and while the bull might be, close to the calf and might represent some sort of danger in terms of he could knock that calf over, you can see what these others are doing. So the adults, females, and the siblings of that little calf have created a protective barrier. So even if that bull comes, they'll almost sacrifice themselves in a way, so they'll get hit by that bull long before that little calf will. And so the bull's not going to be interested in hurting it in any way. They're not like lion and leopards where they'll come around and they'll try and kill the baby to bring that female into estrus. Male elephants are not like that at all. So he's just curious. He'll sniff that little elephant, and then now you see he's just walked off. He's no longer even interested in what's going on here. He knows that there's no female to mate with here, so he's now looking for the female that is in estrus. So he's sniffing the ground, sniffing all the dung, looking around, trying to see which is the female that they are picking up the scent for that is in estrus. So that little calf, perfectly safe at this stage. I don't think he needs to worry too much, and mom and siblings are most certainly protect it as much as possible, keep it as safe as they can over the next little bit. But this is so cool. We're watching an amazing sort of thing unfold, and elephants, they are such intelligent animals that to sit and spend time with them in a situation like this where you've got the females and the males and these little tiny calf and see the social interactions between them is just absolutely fascinating. Right, well, we're going to stay with our elephant herd because I don't really want to go anywhere. There's so much that potentially could happen here with big bulls and little babies, and like I say, a potential of a leopard making an appearance. So while we sit here, I believe James is out and about with his toys once again, and I think Ronald is now making another predator acquaintance for the week.
He certainly is. He's making friends, and he's making friends with that dog that's fast asleep there. Look how close he's got. The dogs are completely disinterested in his presence, and I don't know, can we go to his picture? Is that possible? Is it possible to go to his picture? Now we have got Ronald's picture. Now, this is the reason for existence. The dogs are now going to business, ignoring him in tougher packs, just kind of water behind that they, some of them and then flopping down into and getting out of.
Yes, everybody, I'm not sure what happened there, but, well, we're still sitting here with the ever-present hyena and their little cubs, and they've been getting more and more curious, smelling the air, smelling what we're all about, and it's lovely to watch their nature of wanting to explore the world around them, and as something new comes into their little world, they obviously really want to see what it's all about. But the youngsters, those ones are starting to get the little color of the adults on their faces, and look at that. A little bit of sibling love, maybe. Not often too much love shown between hyenas. Probably a little bit of dominance. And it's amazing to see that we've been watching these youngsters, and even at this young age, they're already marking and putting little anal pastings on the grass as they move around. So, and that's also for each other to sniff and smell. It's not really for other animals. They're already at such a young age establishing and maintaining their position in the hierarchy. And so it's fascinating. That one's still got his prize of the warthog tusk, and it looks like he's keeping it. And the others have been trying to get it away from him, but he's quite happy with it. Now, Aaron, you're wondering how you tell the sexes. Now, that is an extremely good question, because with hyenas, in times gone by, people really believed that they were hermaphrodites, meaning that they are both male and female. And now, I don't mean to make anybody uncomfortable, but if we want to talk about sexes of animals, we're talking male or female, and generally how we tell that is whether there is a penis or an vulva or a vagina. But with hyenas, there is no external vagina. So they, both male and female, have penises. With the female, it's obviously a pseudo-penis, which is an enlarged clitoris. So it's very difficult to tell between male and female. The only thing that you really need to look at is the size. And so the females are much bigger than the males, but it's rather difficult when they are little youngsters like this, because both male and female have penis, but it does seem, from my observations, that the females have a larger pseudo-penis than the male's actual penis. So that's how I have been on my deciding between how to decide if it's a male or female. So I know it's a difficult subject to deal with, and not everybody too comfortable with those kind of conversations, but well, it's a reality. So that's what makes and sets hyena apart. Right, folks, now from one group of small little babies, let's send you on over to Tristan, who's still with that lovely little elephant calf.
Well, indeed. It's always a toss-up which is cuter in terms of the baby animal world. They all, I suppose, are very cute. There's not very many ugly babies out there, that's for sure. But the little one, as you can see, is being very well sheltered, not only from the big rampaging males that are around here, but also from a perspective of this harsh sun that we've got this afternoon. It is incredibly warm, and so for a little baby like that, it's going to dehydrate, and its ears are very sensitive still to the sun, that they could get sunburnt, and so it's important that it stays in the shade of these siblings and adults and make sure that the sun doesn't get on it too much. And so you can see it's perfectly positioned, and there's a little sun hitting it every now and then, but for the most part it's nice and shady underneath all of those tummies, and it can fit in very well as mom has a little dust bath, and all of the others sit and allow it to regain its strength as it tries to work out how to use these legs. Now the male seems to be coming back again. This looks like the cheekier one of the three. He's not the biggest, but he's quite cheeky, this individual, and I think he might get a rough welcome if he comes too close. Look at how these guys will tighten their ranks, and they'll make sure that they keep that bull at bay. There'll also be a lot of communication taking place between them. A lot of it we won't be able to hear. Well, 9 of it we're not going to be able to hear. It use that very low frequency sound that basically will tell that bull, don't come here, there's a little baby, you need to be careful, and keep him at bay as much as possible. You can see now he's stopped to feed and is not very perturbed at all. Now, interestingly enough, now that I look at that big bull elephant, you might notice just above him is actually a bird that's sitting there, and I didn't notice it very well earlier, but it's sitting and it's just perched, and I'm surprised because this time of the day, in the heat that we've got, you would expect most of the birds of prey to be riding the thermals and to be out and about. But this yellow-billed kite is just sitting here, and I wonder if it maybe didn't see an opportunity to feed off some of the afterbirth of this elephant, because what they will do is, even though yellow-billed kites are able to catch their own food, and they'll hunt termites and they'll hunt various other small insects and birds, what they are known for is also coming down onto roadkill and also any bits of carrion that's left behind. And so the afterbirth of a elephant might be the perfect snack for a yellow-billed kite, and that's why it could be sitting here, is because of that reason. The afterbirth might have been close by, and it's now just flown up into the tree waiting for the ellies to move off. It can then come down and feed off it, or it's going to feed off where the elephants have defecated, and there are a number of insects that might be around that as well. So interesting though that this bird is in sort of, even though it's not related to the elephants in any way, it's using the elephants for a food source by the looks of things. I might be wrong, and it might just be a coincidence, but I doubt that that bird would be sitting for that long in the bright, hot sun, exposed like that, if it wasn't for a reason that it was waiting for these elephants to move off, or trying to follow them along as they're defecating and using their dung, basically, as an attraction. But look at the power of these animals. It is absolutely amazing to watch when they move those trees. So Billy, who's 5 years old. Hello, Billy. I hope that you had having a wonderful weekend. You want to know, do elephants like to play? Elephants love to play, Billy. They are one of the most playful animals that we get out here. You'll find if it's a nice cool morning and it's overcast and there's not too much wind, then the little baby elephants are a joy to watch. They'll go up and down and round, and they chase after birds and water and koalas and all these other animals that out as they try and work out how to use their trunk and how to run nicely, and so they're very playful. The adults, not so much. You don't see big bull elephants playing too much. When they get really large, like the male that we have here, then you're going to see that they're going to be a little bit more serious. But when they're young bull elephants and young females, then they play a lot. They push each other as well, and they'll try and test each other's strength. So lots of playing that goes on when you're a baby elephant, or when you're an elephant in general, actually. And then when they go down to water, Billy, they absolutely love water. So in a day like today, you'll find that they'll go into the mud and they'll throw their mud on all over themselves, and they'll roll around in it, and they'll lie down, and they'll get up, and then they'll lie back down in it. And so it becomes a big game when there's a lot of mud around as well. So they are animals that love to play a lot. You can actually see that a lot of them are actually covered in mud at the moment, and that's because it's a warm day, Billy. So even the adults, I think, have gone for a little muddy wallow to try and keep nice and cool on a hot day. It's like if you are very hot, maybe you go and jump into the swimming pool and try and cool down. Although I don't know where you're from, Billy, but if you're in the United States, I'm sure that you are not very hot at all at the moment, particularly on the eastern side of the United States. I believe it is very, very cold, that side of the world at the moment. But look at that little face. Isn't that the sweetest thing? Is your tongue hanging out? It does look like its tongue's hanging out, doesn't it? Are you hot, little one? Shame. I think its tongue's hanging out because it's a little hot. No. Oh well, it'll be all right. It'll be okay. The fact is that the adults are protecting it nicely and making sure that it is well sheltered. And if it needs water, they will guide it to the breast and to the mammary gland to allow it to suckle and to drink. Mother elephants are incredibly good with that. I've seen elephants give birth before and watched the whole process. And when they need that first bit of milk, they'll actually guide them using the trunk straight towards their teats and allow them to then suckle from there. So pretty incredible. Right, well, we're not going to go anywhere. There's no reason to. It's amazing to have the ellies back, 1, and 2, to have a little baby in amongst them. So while we sit here and enjoy these big pachyderms, let's go across to James and his beautiful painted dogs.
Well, the painted dogs have managed to get up slightly now, and they're having a little bit of a greeting ceremony because they keep getting up to go off and have a drink, and then they come back to the shade here. Ronald, unfortunately, has got no signal in this area, and so he is unfortunately probably not going to be able to show you his pictures of the wild dogs. Still, he got a couple of good ones, and we'll try and broadcast those at some time. In the meantime, I think I'll bring it back. Now, Melissa, you've been watching hyenas with Ralph, of course, and you say, who's got bigger ears? I think that was the question. Well, the answer is that the wild dogs have got much bigger ears. Let's move slightly so we can get a better view. They have got enormous ears, wild dogs, and it's because, well, we think because their communication during a hunt is so crucial. And what happens when they hunt is that they can really sort of bombshell or shotgun, if you like, out into the wilderness, and they can lose each other very quickly. And then they need to find each other very quickly. So they have these sort of satellite dish ears that help them to find each other. They listen to the sounds, they can swivel and pick up probably the smallest wild dog sound. There they are. And that helps them to maintain contact during a hunt. For a hyena, yes, their ears are certainly far, far better than ours, but they don't have the same need to communicate during a hunt. They'll hunt visually with each other, if they hunt together at all. I don't know, has Ron got a picture at the moment? I'll just quickly find out from Louise if we've got a Ronald picture. But I don't think we do. No, we don't. Anyway, beautiful shots here of them just trying desperately to stay cool in the sun. Like I say, a very, very hot day indeed. I don't think these chaps are going to get up until, well, at least 6:30 or so, and that on account of the fact that it is, well, it's pretty cold. No, it's not pretty cold. What did I say? No, on account of the fact that it is so very hot, and I think they ate very well today. Earlier on, they looked pretty full this morning. There was blood covering the heads of them, and so I think that although they may try and kill something this evening, it's unusual. It wouldn't be unusual. All right, we're going to go and have a quick look at Ronald's picture now. He's got a picture of one dog who's got his back to him. That's not the best picture Ronald's managed to get today, but I'm not going to move him from there. I'm just leave him. Hey Bird, you ask a very good question. You ask them, do wild dogs live? Now I've taken, the last time I checked, something like 80% of dogs in the Kruger National Park are less
Yes, well, everybody, it seems like when there's problems elsewhere, what do? We come back to the hyena den, and it is still buzzing with the youngsters, so that's not such a problem, is it? I wouldn't say so, because I'm really enjoying sitting here, and these youngsters are up to all sorts. And they've been greeting each other and marking and trying to get the adults to play with them, and then getting in trouble and then going back to lying down, but it never stops. That one's still with his little warthog tusk. He's got his little trophy, and he's working it nicely, working it on his teeth. It's probably quite good for him, as little cubs and puppies do. They need to chew on lots of things to help strengthen their teeth, and also sometimes they do teeth, so they drop their milk teeth and then they get their adult teeth. So it's quite interesting. And that one's slightly older. I wonder if it's got its permanent teeth come through already. The teeth did look quite sturdy, so I think so. A couple of the other really black cubs They look like they've got those really fine, sharp teeth when we do get to see them. And the ones that are becoming a little bit lighter or a little bit older, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't put you in a different position in the hierarchy depending on your age. It all depends on the position of your mother, and very difficult to go up in the pecking order with hyenas. There can be very slight changes within the matriarchy and the pyramid. And look at that. That's a lovely view of this little track. And there, if you had to see baby hyena tracks in the bush, you would be very confused, because you don't often see that, and we always see adults moving around. But if we had to see a little one like that, I'm sure there would be lots of trackers that would be confused, having seen only one little baby hyena track. Right, folks, we are going to keep on sitting here. It is so exciting, and I'm sure the later it gets, the more that might happen. But in the meantime, we're going to send you on back to James with those painted dogs.